Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. A little bit of a festy season. And a beer I'm very, very curious about trying from my good friend Ralph. Barrel Monks Brewing. This be their Autumn Embers. Yeah. Sounds like a I was gonna make like a Boogie Nights joke, like a porn star thing, because autumn waves and autumn embers. It also just sounds like a fall beer. So we don't have to bring it to the porn side of things. We can just talk about autumn. Weird intro. It's what we do. But yeah, Ralph, now the head brewer at Barrel Monks. This is probably the coolest beer that he sent me. You know, he sent me hoppy stuff. He sent me Belgian-based stuff. But there's something about a Marzen. Yes, Marzen, not Marzen. I call it Marzen. Hate me if you want. Something about it, just being, you know, an Oktoberfesty beer, a Marzen beer coming out of Florida from my good buddy. I'm down for it. I'm here for it. What does it say actually on here in the tiniest type in the history of mankind? It says here, a classic Marzen style Autumn Embers is an amber lager that embodies the essence of autumn. The enticing aroma is that of toasty malt and bread crust. A symphony of flavors follows the first sip, with toasted malt flavors taking center stage, imparting a deliciously smooth and slightly nutty character. Notes of caramel and toffee dance delicately, balancing the malt backbone with a gentle sweetness. A kiss of herbal hops add just the right touch of bitterness, leaving a clean and satisfying finish. I think I read it exactly the same way I read it when I did the unboxing, which is quite fun. We're coming in at 5.8% alcohol by volume. Not traditional Marzen glass, but it's my Barrel Monks glass. I figured I'd break it out for this occasion. Here we go. Yeah. It is Oktoberfest. At least at the time of pouring, like, it's literally like Oktoberfest going strong over there. Overseas, actually, the whole All About Beer magazine crew, John Hall and the whole gang are over there right now, and I'm seeing pictures, and it's gonna make me all kinds of jealous that they're having at it. Literally, as I type this, they're going at it. But yeah, label is alright. Not the biggest fan of Barrel Monks beers, but the beer tends to be quite good, so that's what we're here for. Marzen wise, you know, man, spot on. Big, rich, dark, maybe a skosh darker, if we're gonna go like really BJCP nerdy on stuff, but definitely looks the part. Really clear, clean kind of beer when you hold it up to some like very soft carbonation. It has this really nice kind of just north of khaki colored head to it. Looks all the part of a bit of German maltiness. Skin nose. That smells fantastic. Malt driven. You know, nice kind of caramel malts, to stop short of being anything desserty. It's very much kind of a slightly sweetened bready characteristic here. Getting into that kind of brown breads, pushing a little bit of pumpernickel level stuff going on. Not ultra rich like that, but erring towards that side of things. That little bit of burnt brown sugar that comes along with it, which is quite nice. If I'm going to sit here and talk about a hop aromatic, just a soft herbal tone that's very, very gentle, very, very kind of just skirting underneath that sweetness. Just a hyper clean, crisp, zero as far as off flavor, negative aromatics on it. Festy season, I think it's going to come off a little bit maltier, and I'm kind of digging on that. I kind of want some of that, so let's just dive right in. Cheers. Ooh. Yeah. It is actually quite a vibrant beer, both from a malt side of things and a hop side of things. That malt comes out very, very rich, very, very sweet. It's definitely that brown bready leaning towards pumpernickel, but just a little bit more sugar than you typically put in a bread like that, where it's not necessarily dessert level sweetness, but it's adding this really nice pop of additional sweetness you're just not quite used to when it comes to a Marzen. At least I'm not, especially at this ABV level. Sure, you know, 5.8, it's not super small, but at the same time it's not super big, and it drinks a bit more above its weight class. Almost, dare I say, verging in the Baki kind of levels. That's how the rich it comes off, at least flavor-wise. On the other end of things, there's a real herbal tannic kind of bittering to it. Very, very herbal. Very tea-like kind of oolong, like a traditional orange pekoe black tea mixture, like a British style kind of tea, kind of bitterness to it that is a bit, again, bit bigger than you expect from a classic Marzen, but with that sweetness and that being a little bit bolder, you need that little bit bigger kind of hot pop to it to kind of add that bit kind of balance to it. And it works out really, really well. That bitterness lingers, but you still have a little bit of lingering sweetness. So there's almost like a tug of war that kind of happens even long after you've taken your first gulp. That's very tasty. That's really, really tasty. Very, very vibrant. Much more chutzpah. Again, I keep saying a bit more than what you typically get from a Marzen, but in a very, very tasty way. I'm not trying to kind of talk about that in a negative sense. I actually like that it's a bit bolder. I like that it's a bit more kind of vibrant, a little bit more kind of aggressive. It's kind of what I wanted it to be more than what I expected. Like I thought it was going to lean a little bit more traditional, being that it's Barrel Monks, being that they're a hyper traditional brewery, but with this having just that little bit of dialed up Americanized kind of crank it this style to 11. I'm not saying it's like, you know, drinking like a barley wine, like that kind of crazy maltiness, but for this style, just being a bit richer, a bit bolder, a bit more kind of volumetric, it just kind of works. It works in a very, very tasty way. I like this quite a bit. I actually like this a lot. Man, 5.8%. It's drinking closer to 7. Again, very, very much Baki vibes here. The bittering keeps you in that kind of, Marzen kind of festy kind of beer level. It doesn't have that little bit of more sweetness. If you're a drop out of bitterness, it kind of get there, but it very much kind of comes off as a spicy kind of Baki kind of vibe to me in a very, very fun way. I dig this quite a bit. Thank you very much, Ralph, for sending this off. This is a very, very good beer. Very, very tasty beer. Again, Americanized version, a little bit more kind of cranked than your typical Marzen, but very, very tasty nonetheless. This is almost like, a nice progression beer. If you're doing like your own kind of Oktoberfest, or you're drinking a couple beers throughout the night, starting off with like, a session pills, to kind of a fest beer, working yourself up and getting, before you get to that double Bock or that Bock, and you want something in between, this is like the perfect fitment for that in a very, very tasty way. Yeah. Again, just that rich, slightly oversweetened brown bready pumpernickel thing in combination with that tannic tea-like kind of traditional British kind of tea-like kind of hoppiness to it. Finishes, actually, for its vibrance, finishes relatively quick and clean, but it does have that lingering bitter and sweetness that kind of plays back off of each other. Ends up kind of a really tasty beer. Is it one of the better Marzens I've had as late? Yes. As Mount Rushmore says, I kind of want to put it on there. Again, a bit outside of your typical BJCP guidelines. Not that we really adhere to those here, but just the vibrance alone and how well it's made. There's nothing negative here, nothing off flavors here. Low ABV, even though it's a vibrant beer, it's low ABV. Hard to hide those faults. It's worthy. It's worthy. Value and availability on this, man. Barrel Monks does have decent price points. I really want to know what this price point is, so Ralph, you're going to have to tell me. If you're giving this to me at what I hope it could be, not what it probably is, but, a Marzen 4-pack cans, I want it to be $13 American. That's what I want it to be. I'm about to crap out of this. And leave you with, if you like, what will you like this? If you like traditional Oktoberfest German Marzen beers, but you want something a little bit richer, still low ABV, but just something just that has a little bit of just extra little chutzpah to it, you're going to love this. I think if you really do like traditional German-style beers, Marzens, things like that, I think you are going to enjoy it regardless. But if you always wanted just a little touch more to the style, and you dig on Box, but you want something a little bit more sessionable, this is going to do you. You're not afraid of that little bit of bitterness, too. This is going to do you proper. There you go. Reviewing the books. Barrel Monks. Have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? I'm very, very curious. More specifically this year, if they've done it previously. Really curious is your take on this if you've had it. Curious to what you think and how it kind of sits as far as other Marzens you've had and what you enjoy. be a cool conversation. Let's talk about it down there. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little tasty 'tis the season beers. Hope to see you next time. Cheers all.